In today's video, I'm going to ask the question, are these two Gibson Custom Shop guitars objectively the coolest things they've ever done? Well, stick around and let's find out. Hey folks, it's Jack here from Peach Guitars, and in today's video, as I say, I want to explore a few thoughts on these rather interesting but still undeniably very cool Gibson Custom Shop guitars. These are part of the Jimi Hendrix collection for this year, and a few weeks ago when we saw these get announced and when we knew these were going to be coming in, we knew straight away that these were going to be some very exciting instruments. So finally, got the chance to get my hands on them, put them through a few paces and kind of give you a few of my thoughts on what makes these guitars so interesting and so undeniably cool at the same time. Now, I'd like to get out of the way straight away that, of course, Jimi is best known as a Fender Stratocaster player. That is undeniable as well. But I think it's interesting just to kind of take the microscope out a little bit and look at these guitars in the broader picture. They're two guitars that he was known to use at various stages in his very, very short career. And I think the great thing about an artist like Hendrix is the sheer amount of speculation that we can all apply in search of that kind of artistic merit that we all knew he had. What would he have gone on to do had he played these guitars more frequently, had he had those opportunities? What other kinds of guitars would he have gone on to play as well? Probably even other instruments at various points as well. So, although he was known as one of the best Strat players of all time, whenever he did play a Gibson guitar, and there is various documented pieces of footage and recordings of that, he got some great tones as well. He was just using them as a couple of other fantastic tools in his very impressive arsenal of instruments. So I think that they deserve to bear his name just as much as any other instrument may do. Though of course your opinion may differ, and I'd like to know your opinion, whatever it might be, down in the comment section below. Alright, so now that we've dealt with the contentious issues straight away, I want to delve into what makes these guitars so cool. So, to actually break down what they are, we've got this 3-pickup 67 SG Custom in aged Polaris white, which I've said before is one of my favourite colours from the Gibson Custom Shop. I wish they made more guitars in this amazing finish, but nevertheless they don't, and it's only on special guitars like this that it seems to appear. So this was a guitar that Jimi wasn't seen with too often, though I remember when I was younger seeing some footage of him playing SGs, particularly when he sat in with Cream, I think. And it's very difficult to kind of pinpoint the exact events throughout the course of Jimi's history and his playing career as to when he played what and who he played with and so on. I just think that if an instrument has the vibe, he would have gone for it. And this is a guitar that definitely has that. So for me at least, not being a Hendrix aficionado, it's very difficult to pinpoint where exactly this guitar would have been used, but when I've played it, I can kind of tell that there are certain elements to this guitar's tone that would have appealed to Hendrix at various stages. So let me delve into what I think that actually is. Alright, so as I say, this is the 3-pickup variant, of course. So what's interesting about using this middle pickup is that it gives a sound unlike anything else that Gibson ever made, apart from obviously other 3-pickup custom guitars. And so I don't know whether Hendrix used this particular middle pickup sound a lot, but I find that it's got a very vocal, articulate kind of honk to the tone that I think works quite well for some of Hendrix's rhythm style. And I mentioned before in the Hendrix Tale of Two Tones that we did, where I played Strat and played a Gibson Custom Shop Flying V as well, and I remarked that his Gibson tones to me always sounded a little bit more rhythmic and a little bit more solid. So maybe there's an argument to be said for these guitars as being a bit more of a solid bedrock for Jimi to go to when he just wanted to play some more rhythmic ideas. Maybe he didn't want to be so concerned with the Strat's potential tuning issues. That's why I think these guitars are a little bit more solid. Obviously he had the humbucking pickups as well, which maybe countered some noise issues that he might have had at various points using those single coil pickups and so on. So there's a few practical reasons to use a guitar like this, including of course the enormously extended upper fret register that both this and the V I'll talk about in a minute have. So maybe that's something as well that went through Jimi's mind. But to me, just playing this instrument as a guitar, totally in its own right, it's a real stunner. And I've always said that late 60s Fenders and Gibsons are some of my favourite instruments around because they've just got this very, very unique attitude to their tone. It's totally different to some of the most iconic late 50s and early 60s tones that we know from both those brands. But with Gibson especially, I think this is a time when they were transitioning into some really, really cool ideas, and this guitar is a great example of that. Okay, so in addition to the 3 humbuckers, you've got the Maestro Vibrola bridge system, which obviously is another form of a tremolo bridge that Hendrix was known to use on his Strat. This one is a little bit more in keeping with like a Bigsby, so if you're familiar with that feel, you'll probably know what this feels like. Again, a little bit more musical, you might say. It doesn't depress quite as much as a Fender bridge would do, but I find that just to get some nice flurries on chords, and particularly in the later stages of his career when he was using guitars like this, I think he was starting to experiment with some more interesting chord sequences and articulate voicings, and this kind of bridge would have worked very well to just enhance the special elements of some of those note choices that he would have made a little bit later on with the music he was making. That rhythmic idea also kind of ties into the fact that around the later stages when he was playing with the band of Gypsies, that was more of a kind of R&B band anyway. So the kind of guitar tones and guitar stylings that he was going for, I think, maybe lent themselves a little bit better on occasion to what a Gibson of that era had to offer. Now I will say that there's also a distinctly different tone that you can hear that Hendrix had with his Gibson guitars as opposed to his Fenders as well, and particularly with the body styles like the SG and the Flying V, where they were thinner and they had more of a beam-like mid-range tone, a little bit more articulate. I think those tones worked really well for his style, and you hear a lot of neck pickup use, where it's still that kind of full fat humbucking tone, especially with the fuzz pedals and so on, but there was this undeniable kind of beam-like quality to it as well. It always cut through, and it never sounded muddy, it just sounded bigger and broader, as humbuckers are known to do. I think the Gibson Custom Shop have really done a great job with these custom bucker pickups. They're doing a great job with all their pickups at the moment actually, but in these guitars I think they kind of have a little bit of a unique quality to them. It's almost like that half-cocked wah pedal kind of tonality a little bit, where you just get this huge push in the mid-range without it ever becoming too nasal and annoying, but it's very clear, and it's not at the detriment of the low or high frequencies either. It's very balanced sounding, but these might surprise you, the tone of these humbucking pickups. They're not like many other humbucking pickups that I've played. I think they work an absolute treat in this guitar and the V. So speaking of, let's talk about that V. Right then, so let's talk about the V. Now, arguably, this, I would say, is the more iconic guitar design from Gibson that Hendrix was known to use at various stages of his career, in fact. I think he had a couple of different Vs. One was the slightly earlier psychedelic painted V, and then later on, certain performances with the band of Gypsies, including the Isle of Wight Festival, which was one of his last ever live performances. In fact, it might be his last ever live performance. He was using a guitar that this one is based on, a 69 Custom V. So you see the same gold hardware appointments, a real premium looking guitar. And once again, it's just got a lot of that late 60s Gibson flair, not only in the amazing shape of the V, but also just some of the appointments that go into this thing, I think, make it stand out a little bit. It's got that same Maestro Vibrola style bridge system, so again, it afforded Jimmy some of that tremolo flexibility that he was known to use with his Fenders. The same witch hat little knobs down here. Now you've only got 2 volumes and 1 tone on this guitar, as opposed to 2 volumes and 2 tones on the SG, of course. So once again, it would have just given him something different, and I think, as I said at the top of this video, Jimmy as an artist, I can't speak for him, but I can only guess that he was always looking for tools that would just perfect what he was looking for. And so if he felt that a certain track demanded a Gibson tonality as opposed to a Fender, or any other instrument for that matter, then he would have had no qualms in using it. And use it he did, because he used it very effectively in certain cases to get, like I said, some more of those really pretty chord voicings, some of those really nice R&B type chord structures as well. And he just played a lot of really cool lead guitar lines with Gibson humbucking pickup loaded guitars. I think his tone changed a little bit. It was a little bit more aggressive. It was a little bit more nasal in a good way. And the same thing with the SG that I talked about. The V just kind of pushed him in a different artistic direction. Now, I can't speak for Hendrix as an artist, but just in terms of listening to what he did with these guitars, it's kind of undeniable that it perfectly fit in with the cool vibe that he mastered. Now, something that features on both this guitar and the SG that was commonplace on most mid to late 60s Gibson guitars are the nylon saddles on the bridge, which is a unique appointment to these guitars that kind of shaves off a fair bit of the top end and pushes out the mids in a certain way. I really like the tone of nylon saddles. And once again, that kind of fits in to the tonal profile that I was talking about Hendrix having with these guitars of being a little bit more vocal in the mid-range. I think quite a lot of it has to do with these little nylon saddles here. Okay, so as for the rest of the rig that you're hearing these guitars through, I've got the King Tone Mini Fuzz, the germanium version. I'm also using the Mini Hendrix Dunlop wah pedal. I'm using the Zvex Box of Rock to give me that cranked Marshall tone. And of course, I'm using the real deal as well. I'm using a Marshall 1959 hand-wired 100-watt head. The tone is kind of, you know, the formula of it anyway is pretty simple. Jimmy didn't use a whole lot of gear, but he used it very effectively. And I think with having such a simple rig, you really hear the merits of each and every instrument that he played. And that's why I find it very interesting to know that, of course, he did use these guitars in certain contexts. They worked for him in certain ways. And it's interesting to think as well what else he would have gone on to use and how he would have used it. So that's it, folks. I hope you've enjoyed this little introduction to these guitars. Like I said, I'd like to know what you think about them in the comments, and I would just say that zoom out a little bit and treat these as guitars in the broader picture. They're just very, very cool instruments in their own right. They're very limited. This right-handed V is one of 125 pieces, and the SG is one of 150. So I feel very lucky that I've got to play a few different examples of these guitars, in fact. And if you're quick enough and you get to peachguitars.com, you may be in with a chance of picking one up for yourself. So head there if you want any more details on any of these guitars. Make sure that you leave a like on this video and you comment down below with your thoughts, and make sure that you're subscribed to the Peach Guitars and the Peach Boutique YouTube channels. So that's it, folks. Take care of yourselves. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.